TIFU by assuming that the car I bought in the US was set to miles, for 7 years. In 2016, my 18-year-old self purchased a common used car from an old man who lived in Ohio. Everything checked out. He had a clean title in hand, maintenance records, and the test drive revealed no issues. Shortly after purchasing the car, my father remarked that I was really putting on the miles fast, and as a result, there were pretty frequent oil changes. I brushed his comments aside as I did drive the car daily and take it on some weekend adventures. Fast forward to this year. With my car now at 179k, it had to go into a service shop for repair after some warning lights came on. The shop provided me with a diagnostic sheet from a tool they plugged into my car, which showed my car only had 111k miles. I pointed out the mistake, but the mechanic was confident the sheet was correct. We took a look at the odometer and he remarked how it was unusual that there was no indication of the unit it was in, but he noted the speedometer was labeled in miles. After some debate, we pulled up a km to miles calculator, finding that 179 km equals, you guessed it, 111k miles. We then tested the theory by driving and recording the distance to check versus the odometer. And sure enough, it confirmed our suspicions that my mileage was actually kilometage. The mechanic went to toggle the setting that should have put it back to miles, but discovered feature to be broken, leaving my car's odometer stuck in km. He said I could pay to have someone try to fix it, but then pointed out that all of this car's records, title, maintenance, insurance, etc., including the ones from the previous owner, were also in kilometers marked incorrectly as miles. Trying to reverse it back to miles would be a lengthy and expensive process, and I might get flagged for trying to commit odometer fraud by rolling it back. So now I'm stuck with my car with an odometer and all of its records in km marked incorrectly as miles. I'll likely be unable to sell it with the false paperwork and have spent hundreds of unnecessary dollars in extra oil changes and other routine maintenance based on the mileage. The upside is I purchased it for a good deal, since the previous owner was also under the impression that it was in miles. TLDR, my car's odometer has been in km for at least 7 years and no one noticed. Hey, at least you know it was well maintained, LMAO. That's actually not bad. If it was like 300 kilometers, you'd be worried and looking for a new car. But 179 kms is amazing. Still got heaps of life left in it. If you've been changing your oil at 3,000 kilometers instead of 5,000 kilometers, and doing other regular maintenance ahead of schedule, then your car is probably in fantastic condition, and I would keep it for as long as you can and start under-reporting your miles the next time you have to update your insurance and/or registration. On the plus side, the car is well maintained and the preventative maintenance is extra preventative. You never checked your gas mileage when filling up? Trip odometer? Weren't thinking those oil changes were cropping up pretty quickly? Damn, son. Info: have you been driving in kilometers as well? I don't imagine the value of a third-hand 10-plus-year-old car with 111k miles is all that high enough to truly be concerned with being able to resell it, at least in some manner more official than a handshake and title sign-off. Where I don't think this would matter at all. I think it's kind of funny, to be honest, and hey, in the end your vehicle is well maintained. Hey, just wanted to say all those oil changes are gonna keep your engine in top shape. If you keep doing them regularly or even very slightly early, you'll be set for a good long time. Most stuff on cars can be replaced somewhat economically, but once the engine or transmission goes It's normally toasted. Are not worth repairing. Fight rust aggressively. Keep doing fluid changes and you'll have a working car for a long time. And BTW. Cleaner oil prevents wear that eventually causes failures. So by changing the fluid frequently you were really buying extra life on your engine. Don't feel too bad bro, smile. Kilometrage. Canadian snickers approvingly. Out of curiosity, what is the model of the car? You're stoked. Your car has 68,000 miles less on it than you thought it did. That's worth way more than any additional dollar you spent on maintenance. Logan Sargent wants to know your location. Well, this means you probably got a great deal on that car. I borrowed a friend's car which she had brought from Canada. I kept thinking it had an unusually smooth ride because I would feel like I was driving normal speed. About 3,035 miles per hour. But then I would look at the speedometer and it would say I was 20 over where I thought I was. Took much longer to figure out than one would hope. I purchased a Canadian variant of the Mustang and re-imported it to the USA. Odometer was in km. Swapped the speedometer to mph. Noticed that years after I sold it there was a huge jump in mileage and then a rollback the next time it was reported. Dumbasses put in the km as miles without converting it, even though it very clearly stated the unit. If the units were shown on the dash it'd be relatively easy to get this information corrected. But I have a feeling the fact that the units aren't labeled in your car that the local DMV or inspection agency may be a little more dubious about the whole thing. But probably eventually get it corrected if you explain it carefully and kindly. Long time ago I was flying small 4-seater airplanes. There was an annual rental contract and I would usually pick the same planes from the rental lot at the local airport. One time my preferred vehicles were all gone so I picked one of the other planes and was on my way. Everything looked normal up until it was time for the landing when the stall low speed warning sound came on, which seemed odd because my speed indicator told me I was exactly at the recommended landing speed. So I ignored that and kept on going. Aside from the alarm everything went well and I did my smoothest landing ever where you could barely feel the transition from flying to rolling on the runway. I was still bothered by that alarm though and took a closer look at the airspeed indicator. Turns out it was not labeled in nautical miles per hour. Knots. Like all the other planes in the fleet, but instead used mph, which means I was going 15% slower than expected. Oops. Well, if you were doing oil changes that frequently, be proud. You've probably got the cleanest engine in the neighborhood. Yummy face. So just pretend you haven't noticed it either when you sell maybe a non-US replacement part.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Aerocast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.